Class is in memory of Jared Orchen, and we will today learn about the 15th of Av, that was yesterday. It's a Jewish holiday that nobody knows about, nobody's practicing. So there's a holiday in the biblical times. But we will start with the Mishnah. There is in the tractate Ta'anit. Ta'anit means fasting. There is a special tractate that speaks about Jewish fast days. It describes by the end of the tractate, literally by the end, the Mishnah speaks about this holiday. Then we will start with the Mishnah and we will get into it a little bit. Understand?
The Mishnah concludes with a discussion of festive days. Rabban Shimon Gamliel said, Israel had no days as festive as the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur.
The Mishnah compares the 15th of Av to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is known, right? Everybody knows. The 15th of Av, nobody knows. The Mishnah puts them in the same breath. What they used to do on these two very important holidays? Go ahead.
When the maidens of Jerusalem would go out dressed in white garments that were borrowed, so as not to embarrass one who had none. All the garments worn on these occasions required immersion in a mikveh. The maidens of Jerusalem would go out and dance in the vineyards.
Okay. The maidens of Jerusalem used to go out on the vineyards, the girls who were not married, and take a dance. Basically like a real exciting event. And they used to borrow the clothing. But nobody should know who is rich and who is poor. Even that, soon we'll see that it's, we can't know, but still, then everybody, it was a statement of love your fellow Jew. As the Talmud later says, the daughter of the king was borrowing from the daughter of the high priest, the daughter of the high priest. Everybody borrowed your dress from somebody else. I mean, I was young when I learned it, I couldn't understand because, usually you don't borrow a pair of pants from other people. But I learned that bride dresses and things like this, it's a very common thing to do. They used to borrow the dresses, go out to the vineyard and say what? Go ahead.
Is this the first century definition of like a Federation Jewish singles function?
Yeah, but actually it was before the first century.
The only question I would ask is...
The point is, this issue was needed all the way from the beginning. It's not a new thing.
I mean, this is a really just for
Yeah,
fun. I mean, these are a lot of people changing the dresses and giving... the size. How do they know whose size is right?
Oh.
Everybody was skinny then.
Yeah, they didn't have
One size fits all.
They had manna, the same portion for everyone.
Was there manna
there is the...
Oh, they were just, I know.
That's another department. The technical department is not my side.
I couldn't figure it out. They were all made up.
Ask Miriam that question.
Exactly.
They're all right. One size fits all.
Do not pay attention to beauty. Pay attention to family.
I didn't read the most important. And what would they say? They said to whom?
Oh, young man, raise your eyes and see what you choose for yourself.
They used to turn to the boys who was there at the party. And they tell them, young man, raise your eyes, lift your eyes, and see what you choose for yourself. Go ahead. Do not
pay attention to beauty. Pay attention to family.
Who said that? As the Talmud later said, the people who are not so beautiful said, do not pay attention to the beauty, pay attention to the family. Go ahead.
The Jewish parents, right?
Yeah.
Same thing we say today, right?
Absolutely.
Grace is false and beauty is vain. A woman who fears Hashem, she should be praised.
Well, they got that from that Valor.
Yeah, one of Valor. Yeah. And the next verse says, give her the fruits of her hands, and let her be praised in the cities with her deeds.
Then that was the 15th of Av, like a Valentine's Day. But for singles, not for married people. Married people will not be caught dead in the vineyards. Married guy, get out of here. This is for single people, for single girls and for single people, single boys.
When did it start?
From biblical time, from the beginning, from very early.
In the Mount Sinai.
Not Mount Sinai, but when they entered the land of Israel, a little bit after they entered the land of Israel. We are going to get into it.
It's the rabbinic version of J-date. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Except you got to meet them.
Oh, after the
Now,
Yeah.
Now we'll turn the page. And we will start to discuss the reasons for this day as a special day. Why it became a holiday. What are the reasons? In Judaism, there is no holidays just because. Every holiday is a reason. And this holiday is quite a few reasons. Then let's start with the first reason. Right.
Rabbi Shimon ben Gamaliel said, Israel has no day as festive as the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. The Gemara asks, now is it...
Now the Gemara usually quotes the line from the Mishnah and start to discuss it. The Gemara quotes this line from the Mishnah, what Rabbi Greenberg said, there was not such special days to the Jewish people like the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. And the Gemara is right away asking, now
it is understandable that Yom Kippur is considered an especially festive day, since it is a day of forgiveness and pardoning. And also because
the Gemara says, Yom Kippur, yeah, it makes sense why it's a festive day, because it's a day that God told us He forgive us for all our sins. What could be a more festive day that you know that you get a clean slate, a clean beginning, everything is forgiven? Sure, it's a festive day. That's number one reason. And then the Gemara continues with a second reason.
And also because it was the day on which the second tablets of Ten Commandments were given.
Right? That was the first tablet were broken by Moses on the 17th of Tammuz. Then he went up for 40 days to discuss with God to forgive the Jewish people. And convinced God, so to speak, to give a second set. Then he went up with two stones, and God wrote the second set of tablets. When he came down finally with the last set of tablets, Yom Kippur. And on that Yom Kippur, God had forgiven for the sin of the Jewish people by giving the sets of the two tablets. The two tablets was the best statement that He forgiven for the golden calf. Then there is no surprise that Yom Kippur is a day of celebration, no question about it. But,
However, what is the significance of the 15th of Av, that it should be observed as a festive day?
Yeah, what's so special about the 15th of Av? That's the question. The Gemara answers.
The Gemara answers. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, this is the day that the tribes were permitted to intermarry. The Gemara
Okay,
asks,
let's stop right here. Right here. Rav Yehuda bar Shmuel says the reason why it became a day of celebration, because the tribes were allowed to marry with each other. What does this mean? What happened? That's a biblical story. The biblical story is about the daughters of Tzlofchad. The daughter of Tzlofchad came to Moses and told them, our father Tzlofchad did not have sons, and when you don't have sons, their daughters should be able to inherit the land from him. Then Moses asked God, right? And God said, they're right, they should get a piece of the land. Then the Jews right away worry about it. Then came a whole delegation of the tribe of Menashe. The Tzlofchad daughters was from the tribe of Menashe. And they said, if the daughters of Tzlofchad will get a piece of land, and they will marry men from other tribes, and their children will be belonging to another tribe, because which tribe you are goes after the father. If you're Jewish or not, goes after the mother. Which tribe you are goes after the father. Then they will, let's say, the daughters of Menashe will marry people from the tribe of Judah, men from the tribe of Judah, that their sons will be considered from the tribe of Judah, and biblically the men are the one who inherit from the parents. Then the piece of land that belonged to the tribe of Menashe will end up in the hand of Judah. That Moses turned to the daughters of Tzlofchad and he told them that they should marry only men from the tribe of Menashe. If they want to inherit the land of their father, they have to make a commitment to marry only people from their tribe. Then for the first generation was a rule that a girl who does not have brothers and wants to inherit father's land has to marry somebody from your own tribe. That it was like a kind of a barrier between tribes. It's not a good thing. It doesn't add to the unity of the Jewish people. It doesn't mean, that was enough people. It was 20,000, 25,000 people in a half of the tribe of Menashe. It wasn't like they couldn't find anybody to marry. But the daughters of Tzlofchad, if they wanted the land, and they had the guts to go to Moses and demand, and God agreed with them. Obviously, they were very wanted girls, but the rest of the Jewish people couldn't marry them because you had to be only from the tribe of Manasseh. Then the 15th of Av was the day then this law that people cannot marry from each other tribe was taken off. It was only a law for one generation. Mark, you want to turn on the other life?
That's why they let them intermarry.
Yeah, then they lost the reason from the beginning. Now they have the.
They said as long as in the beginning things were established, that now we're not afraid of one. Because let's say even somebody who had a brother, yeah, and she married somebody from another tribe, and then the brother died. That you cannot protect the world. You understand what I'm saying? It's never 100%. That's why no matter what, it's not 100%. Then you leave it for God. That for that generation that you establish the rules, you establish who his tribe is who, makes sense that people were worried about it. Later, you don't have to continue it. The day that they took off the barriers from girls of single girls, the only girls of families, they were the only children of the family, cannot marry a man from other tribe, was the 15th of Av. That's one of the reasons why 15th of Av became a day of celebration. And it makes sense with the dancing, and because it became a day of marriage, of uniting between the tribes. They permitted the intermarry between tribes, not intermarry between...
Right. Religions.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is specifically at that time, or is this because of later the story of Benjamin?
Wait a second, that's one reason. Continue. What verse was interpreted
What
to drive...
verse was interpreted to derive that the tribes may henceforth intermarry?
It's written in the Bible that you're not allowed to marry of another tribe. How the rabbis found a way to take off the barriers? What verse in the Bible they found that supported their idea that after this generation that it was only a barrier for that generation, and later they could be married from other tribes? Go ahead.
The Torah states, this is the law that Hashem commanded to the daughters of...
Slofrat.
Thank you. The Gemara interprets, this law which regulates the marriages of women who have inherited property applies only to this generation.
The way it's written, or the way it's written, it should be for this generation, so to speak. The way the Torah said it, it sounds more like it was, this is the order that God gave to the daughters of Tzofchat, not to all the generations to come, to them.
But the Torah doesn't actually say that, because they don't actually declare who it was. It was Rabbi Akiva that revealed the name.
What do you mean?
Well, the name of the
Forget about Hashem.
I thought the name itself...
No, the Torah said that, sure.
Oh.
We don't know that Slofchad was the guy who was the woodcutter.
Okay.
Or there it's a quote from the Bible,
Okay,
sure.
right.
Sure. Then this is one reason. Now, so far we know one reason why the 15th of Av became a day of celebration, a romantic day of guys looking for girls, because that was the day that the barriers between the tribes were taken off, and the unity of the Jewish people was enhanced. That's for sure. Okay, now we'll go to the next explanation. Next reason.
The Gemara offers another explanation for the festive nature of the 15th of Av. Rav Yosef said in the name of Rav Nachman, the 15th of Av was the day that the tribe of Benjamin was permitted to marry into the congregation of Israel.
Oh, what is the story? We'll stop right here. It was once, right after the Jewish people entered the land of Israel, and after Joshua passed away, after Joshua, was a story about a man in Israel who had a concubine, and he took her, she ran away from him, and he went and took her back, and they stopped by, on the way back, they stopped by in the house, in a village of the Benjaminites, and they didn't want to, they were not nice to them, and they raped the woman. It's a whole story. That caused to a war, when the rest of the Jewish people heard what the Benjaminite did to the woman. They raped her to death, so to speak. that caused all the Jews from all over Israel came to fight the Benjaminites. To a point, it's an amazing story. Today, you hear about a crime, but you leave your job and you go to fight. You say, oh, the authorities will take care of it.
Yeah, look at St. Louis. I don't know if you followed what's happened in St. Louis this week, but there was the killing of an African-American kid who was about to go to college. The entire city, or entire parts of the city, are in a riot right now.
I know. It doesn't, that's not necessarily it comes from care. There is something about that they care, that they cared, and therefore they do it. Yeah, there is some unity there that's not available in other places. But in that case, the whole nation came out and told the Benjaminites, oh, you give us the people who did it, and we punish them. Or they didn't want to do it, started a war. And in this war, the Benjaminite was successful one time, another time. The bottom line is around 70,000 Jews died in this war, according to 42,000, 70,000. A lot of people died in this war, no question about it. All Jews. Jews against Jews. Finally, they took a note. No one of us will give his daughter to the Benjaminites. Such bad people, we don't want to be a part of it. It was going on for one generation. And they realized that the Benjaminites, for some reason, did not have enough girls, that the tribe of Benjamin is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And soon enough will be nobody from the tribe of Benjamin. That they were very worried about it, and they wanted to take off the oath. But they made an oath. And what they did? Let's see what the Gemara tells us, what they did. First of all, the Gemara quotes the oath, the promise that they made, how they will not give their daughters to Benjaminites.
As it says, and each Israelite swore in Mitzpah, saying, no man from among us shall give his daughter to Benjamin for a wife. The Gemara asks, what verse was interpreted as implying permission for subsequent generations to offer their children in marriage to members of the tribe of Benjamin?
The Gemara answers, Rav said, the oath takers had said specifically from among us, implying, but not from among our children.
They said, we promise we will not give our daughters. We never said our children will never give our daughters. That's what the Gemara says. Actually, in the text it's written something a little bit different. They said, then how they established it, it's written in the book of Joshua. What's written there, how they did it? They said, let's allow our daughters go out and dance. And the Benjaminites will come and catch the girls. We promised we will not give our daughters, or they can take them. In the olden days, you gave away your daughter. But
Permission granted.
but in that time, the real ways when the father really gives the daughter to his son-in-law. Then at that time, what they said, you'll go out to dance. We will not give you away. They will come and grab you, so to speak, and then we didn't disobey. We didn't broke our promise. That's what they said.
Smart.
Then that's how it started. This whole idea of the 15th of Av, of the dancing, that it comes from the story of Joshua. Since then, it became a day of dancing, because the way to break the promise not to give the Benjaminites, they came up with this idea. And since then, looks for generation, it was a day that the daughters of Jerusalem go out and dance.
When did it stop?
And it stopped.
Not going on today, is it?
Some kibbutzim in Israel trying to revive it, not only with single girls, with everybody, just having fun.
What?
Having fun. That's
Excuse
okay.
for a party?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did they only do it at that time in the beginning with the tribe of Benjamin, or did they say, okay, well, we'll bring Benjamin in with the rest of the tribes?
It became a Jewish holiday, a Jewish for everybody,
Okay.
a way of Jewish practice, a celebration, a day of celebration. But the cause of the celebration was to again reunite tribes, reunite the Jewish people, bring marriages. That's why it became a day, like you said in the beginning, a day of single of shidduchs. Because ultimately, if you don't have shidduchs, you don't have a next generation. Then the most important thing the Jewish people need is a new generation. It's written in the Talmud that the women of who were in Egypt were very righteous women. Because of the righteous women in Egypt, the Jewish people came out from Egypt. What was the righteousness that they did? What? They said Tilim. They went to shul. No. They had children. That was the righteousness. Because if you don't have another generation, God wouldn't have anybody to take out from Egypt. You may be very holy and very righteous, but there is no generation. This is the most important thing. There is nothing more important than that. I had a grandmother, a great grandmother. She used to say, during the service, you say Kadosh, 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 right? It's called Gdusha. And then there you say Baruch Hu et Hashem Avorach. Baruch Hu. Gdusha and Baruch Hu. She used to say that a mother with little children, she doesn't have to go to synagogue to say Gdusha and Baruch Hu. Ir Gdusha and Baruch Hu is a kasha and a borscht. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
Making the kasha and the borscht for her children is the Gdusha and the Baruch Hu. She serves Hashem with raising Jewish children more than the regular woman who is serving it. Not more, but everyone has his time. When you raise children, you have to be attending to the children. Later, you can attend to other religious things, and you should attend to other religious things. But at that time, that's what's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Then this was the second reason for the 15th of Av. We'll go to the third reason. The Gemara offers a third explanation.
Rabbi Bar Chana said in the name of Rav Yochanan, the 15th of Av was the day on which those destined to die in the wilderness finished dying.
Okay. Was when Moses came down from when it was the story of the spies. It happened on Tisha B'Av, right? And on this Tisha B'Av, God told them, the Jewish people said they don't want to enter the land of Israel. And they cried the whole night, as it's written in the Bible. That God says, you don't want to go out, to go to Israel? Fine, stay in the desert. I will wait until the next generation will grow up, and I will lead them to the land of Israel. And what will happen to this generation? The generation between 20 and 60 will die in the desert. That would actually happen. Everyone who reached the age of 60 died. When was the day of dying? Tisha B'Av. That the day they cried, that the day they died. Then what happened used to be, as the Gemara will say, people used to dig their own graves, say goodbye to their families, and die. And then happened the last time. Let's read, continue.
For Mar said,
Yes.
so long as those destined to die in the wilderness were not finished dying, there was no divine communication with Moses.
Oh, for 38 years, God did not have something new to tell Moshe. Because if God was upset with the Jews, he was upset with Moses. What did this mean? God spoke to Moses, but it wasn't this love and face-to-face communication. Now, when you don't like somebody, when a couple is in a fight, everybody's sitting like this. They don't like each other. The face-to-face loving communication between God and Moses was not there for 38 years until they finished dying. When they stopped dying, that was the time that God says, it's written in the Torah, and when it was the time that the whole generation died, God said to Moses. From this we learn that till then, it's not written God said to Moses in this way. That's the first good thing. That's another good thing that happened on the 15th of Av. What else happened there with the same story? It's in the bottom of this page. For it is stated.
For it is stated, and it was when all the men of war ceased dying, Hashem spoke to me. Only then was the divine communication restored to me.
Then the Talmud says this is the day that the celebration of Tu B'Av is not only that they stopped dying, that God spoke to Moses again after a break of 38 years at this level of communication. But what really the Talmud adds more and the Medrash adds more, that every year 15,000 people, 600,000 men were in the desert between the age of 20 and 60. Divided into 40 groups, 600,000.
15,000 a year.
15,000 a year. Very good. It's very good in numbers.
Wow.
And that every year 15,000 people died.
How many houses does that translate to, Tori?
Oh my God!
Just like that, they went and they had a heart attack.
Who said they had a heart attack?
They just laid down and
I
died.
did not. I did not interview them how they died, and I didn't find any record exactly. Nobody gave them a biopsy later to find out how they died.
Oh wait, now that we're
They died.
now that we're speaking about them dying in the desert, someone was saying, you know, of all the people that died in the desert, 600,000 people or more, you know,
Honestly,
nowadays, you know, they would find their remains. Some of these search finders, right? But they didn't. There's no story of them finding remains,
you're
right?
finding remains. You're talking about
In the desert.
3,300 years ago. You're finding
It's dust.
In the
remains.
desert.
They may
In
be
the
looking in the
desert.
wrong area, don't
Yeah,
forget.
they look in
Oh,
the
I
wrong
know,
place.
I know. I'm just saying that I heard someone was asking
Yeah,
a question.
actually, the Talmud says about rabbis who saw the bodies of the people from the desert. They look like they are happy, like they are in a good mood. That's what the Talmud says.
Whoa.
In any case, the last 15,000 people dig the wrong graves on Tisha B'Av. In the morning they woke up. They thought maybe they made a mistake in the date. Next day, because it wasn't the calendar organized. The next day, and it came to be a full moon, the 15th of the Jewish month is a full moon. When they realized it's a full moon, they knew Tisha B'Av passed, and they uncovered that God, they discovered that God had forgiven the last 15,000 people. That became a day of celebration. Then since the desert, the 15th of Av is a day of celebration. As Tisha B'Av is a day of sadness since the desert, because that was the day that the spies got the decree not to enter the land, the 15th of Av became a day of celebration from the beginning. Because the 15,000 men were spared and God had forgiven them and they didn't die. They entered the land of Israel. Not just they didn't die, they merited to enter the land of Israel.
Is there a correlation between the two? They're so close, these two dates. Tisha B'Av was
Sure,
just
sure.
last week. And now
There
we
is 5 reasons for Tisha B'Av as a sad day. There is 6 reasons for the 15th of Av as a happy day. Sure, the happiness has to be a counter to the sadness.
so close to each other now.
Absolutely, sure,
Yeah.
sure, it's a correlation. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's reason number 3. Now we'll go to reason number 4 for the celebration of Tu B'Av.
The fourth
Right.
explanation of the day's festive nature is offered. Ula said the 15th of Av is the day that Hoshea ben Elah removed the sentries that Avraham ben Nevat had stationed on the roads leading to Jerusalem.
Okay, let's stop right here. Right after King Solomon, the son of King Solomon, his name was Rehoboam. In English, Rehoboam?
Rehoboam.
Rehoboam. Okay, Rehoboam is better. Rehoboam came, and the Jewish people came to him. Solomon put a lot of taxes. He tortured, he was very harsh on the people. He collected a lot of money, tax from people. Came a delegation to Rehoboam. King Solomon was building the temple. King Solomon was busy with a lot of things. He had the big projects. They came to his son and they told him, make it easier. It's so hard. It's impossible. Rehoboam said to them, give me 3 days. He went to ask advice of the elders. What do you think? That they told them, if you will have mercy on the people and you will be a servant to the people, Eved ato hayom la'am hazeh, you are a servant to the people, then they will listen to you. You love them, you'll serve them, you'll not be in top of them, and you care for them, and you'll be easier on them, then you'll be a king. That's the oldest told him. He came to the youngest, his friends, his age. They told him, give it to them, show them, what is this, you're strong. Tell them my father punished you with אבי ייסר אתכם בשוטים, my father punished you with lashes, ואני אייסר אתכם בעקרבים, I will punish you with scorpions. I will be even harsher than my father. What do you think, there's a picnic here? I'll show you who's the boss here. That's what the young people told him. And Rehoboam decided to take the advice of the youngsters. The elders told them, from your father they took this kind of abuse. Because Solomon was Solomon. From you? No, take it. He came after 3 days, the whole nation came back and said, no, Rebbe Chavam, what do you have to offer us? He said what the young people said. My father punished you with lashes, I will use scorpions. I'll be 10 times worse than my father. Guess what? They told them, have a nice day. They established their own kingdom, the northern kingdom. 10 tribes broke off from the kingdom of Judah and established the kingdom of Israel. Who was the first king?
Jeroboam.
Yerovam ben Nevat. And what he did, he wanted to make sure that his people don't support the kingdom of Jerusalem. And the Jewish law is 3 years, 3 times a year you have to go to Jerusalem. And if people go to Jerusalem, you go there, you spend money there, right? That you support the economy. You might find a gold there, you might stay there. Basically, it's bad news. He closed down, Yerovam ben Nevat, the king, closed down the borders between the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. The borders were closed. Sealed. He put police there. He would kill anybody who would try to go to Jerusalem. A Jewish king closed the ways for Jews to go to Jerusalem. And this is right after King Solomon. That means the idea that the whole Jewish nation went to the temple was for a very short time. King Solomon took him the time to build the temple 7 years, right? He was a king for 4 years, right? Then it was talking about 30 years. Nothing. Right after that, that was it. 3/4 of the Jewish people were disconnected. Only Judah and Benjamin were in the kingdom of Judah. 10 tribes, the 10 lost tribes that we know, they are all from the kingdom of the northern kingdom of Israel. Then and what he said, they knew that the Jews need a place to go, that he established 2 centers, and he built golden calves. And he made the Jews go worship the golden calf. And he was the first one to worship the golden calf, and it was Freilach. And the ways to Jerusalem were closed for 300 years. You hear? Right? 300 years. 300 years. He said, generation after 300 years! How old is America?
Not 300.
Not even 300. Then, and obviously people forgot about Jerusalem, forgot about everything. Over 300, so many generations, nobody goes to Jerusalem. There were always a few people used to sneak out. It's written that Yerovam ben Nevat's son himself used to run away to Jerusalem, one of his sons. Later the son, a cool story. In any case, 300 years passed and the Jews, the kingdom of Israel was doing well, financially usually. And the kingdom of Judah was a little schwach. After 300 years came a king. His name was Hoshea ben Olah. Hoshea. And Hoshea, even it's written here that he was a wicked king, Rashi says. The Rebbe once spoke about the story. The Rebbe said that Hoshea was a righteous king. He took off the borders. He took off the borders on the 15th of Av. And he said anybody who wants to go to Jerusalem should go. A day of celebration, right? Anybody can go to Jerusalem. What do you think happened? How many people went? Nobody.
They remember.
No. You know when the Jewish people of the 10 tribes of Israel were exiled actually from Israel? During the time of Hoshea ben Olah. The commentaries are asking, finally, one good king, finally opening the doors to Jerusalem, finally doing the right thing. Why should he be punished? Why in his time the Jewish people were exiled from Israel? 300 years of wicked king, idol worshippers. The economy is booming. One good king takes off the walls from Jerusalem, from the borders. Finally, he can go to Jerusalem. I heard once from the Rebbe a whole discussion about it. Why by this king? The Rebbe said that the commentary say something very, very powerful and painful. They say like this. As long as it was, the kings didn't allow the Jews to go to Jerusalem, the kings were to be blamed. But the nation couldn't go. They couldn't go. The moment the king opened the ways, he took off the blame from himself and then put it on every individual. Now if they don't go to Jerusalem, they deserve exile. then he thought he's doing something good. He really did something bad. He hastened the exile of the Jew of the 10 tribes. Because by opening the borders and not being educated about going to Jerusalem, then you're not only not doing good, you're doing bad. You're giving the Jews the opportunity to do a mitzvah. They don't appreciate it because they were not educated. Now they're being blamed for not going, and now they have to pay for it. That when Jews went to exile, in the time of the good king, not in the time of bad. 300 years of bad kings was perfect. Life was great. Came finally one good Jew, takes up the borders. Kinderlach, he can go to Jerusalem as much as you want.
So they
My father didn't go to Jerusalem. My grandfather didn't go to Jerusalem. My great-grandfather didn't go. My great-grandfather didn't go to Jerusalem. Since the Baal Shem Tov, there is 300 years. Talking about 10 generations at least. Now it's 300 years. It's a long time. Then
between now and
in a strange way, every time when you do something good, you have to think,
How good is it?
what are you really doing here? Are you doing just to take off from yourself the responsibility? Or are you really helping the Jews around you? It's a very tricky thing, it's like everything is complicated. Nothing is black and white. What it looks a mitzvah on this side might look on the other side, the opposite. But the day that he took off the borders and he opened the road to Jerusalem was on the 15th of Av. The 15th of Av is a happy day. Jews who wanted to go to Jerusalem finally could go. I'm sure there were Jews who went, but very few. That was the problem.
Same problem they have. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if it happened on that date, then it was a good.
It was a good day.
Good.
Eventually, it didn't work out because the Jews didn't take advantage of it.
First temple?
What? This
At
story?
this point, yeah.
This was the end of the first temple. Yes, yes, because the 10 tribes were exiled like 100 years before the destruction of the first temple. But that was the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end was when they divided the two countries. Took 300 years until Sancherib came, and
Basically right after Solomon, which is amazing.
before it started, it was the beginning of the end.
Where was the temple in the northern kingdom? Was it in Samaria? Was it in?
There were two.
Was it Shiloh, or was it?
No, I don't think in Shiloh. No, not in Shiloh. But I don't know where exactly. I think not in Beersheba or something. It was in Dan. I don't know. Listen, geography is not my strongest point. I don't want to tell you things.
Obviously in the north, but.
Yes, exactly where I don't know. Then that's what he's saying here. Can you finish it?
Jeroboam ben Nevat had stationed on the roads leading to Jerusalem to prevent Jews from ascending to the holy temple on the pilgrimage festivals. And at that time, Yosheb ben Elah said, let them go up to worship whichever they desire.
Whatever they desire means they can go wherever they want. But he didn't force them to go to Jerusalem. He gave them permission to go to Jerusalem, and they didn't go. But this day, that's the fifth reason why this is a special day. That's the fourth reason. Now we'll go to the fifth reason why the 15th of Av is a special day. Go ahead.
I have I'm sorry, to make one comment, if
Yeah.
it's okay. This situation we just spoke about, removing the borders, or the things, is it almost like Jonah, when he didn't want to embarrass the Jewish peoples, that they shouldn't not do tshuva?
You're right, he did it on the good side. Yeah, it's the same logic, the same thing. Yes, very good, yeah. Go ahead.
The Gemara advances another explanation. Rav Masna said, the 15th of Av was the day that the slain of the Jews at Betar were afforded a burial.
Okay. Beitar was a story, Bar Kokhba. Bar Kokhba is after the second temple. 50 years after the second temple, Bar Kokhba started a revolution against the Romans. In the beginning he was very successful, and in the end he started to give himself too much credit, that he is God, that he does need the help of God, Chaz v'Sholem, and therefore he lost the war, and Beitar was destroyed on Tisha B'Av, and it was such a massacre. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews died. Not only this, the Roman Emperor didn't allow to bury the people, that the rest of Jews should know forever, look what is happening to you guys if you mess around. Okay, then on this day, for many years, you couldn't bring him to burial. And after, I don't know, 15 years, whatever it was, Rabbi Gamliel, according to the Medrash, to some commentaries, he bribed the Roman emperor, the new emperor, and he gave them a lot of money. He spent his whole fortune to allow to bring the dead people of Beitar to burial. When they came to bury them, they discovered something interesting. Go ahead.
And Rav Masna said further on this topic, on the same day the slain Jews of Beitar were afforded burial. The sages of Yavna instituted the fourth blessing of grace after meals. Who is good and who confers good? Who is good commemorates that, miraculously, the bodies did not decay. And who confers good signifies that God ultimately ordained that the bodies be afforded burial.
We'll speak about another time about the fourth blessing. It's interesting, the grace after meal, it's in the parsha of this week, how it's all connecting. But what he says is they made us, when they came to this to bury these people, they were intact. They didn't
Decompose.
they didn't decay. They were, and even it was years later, they were still able to bury them. It was a special day. First of all, that they can bring them to burial, and discovering the miracle that God preserved the bodies, and they didn't decay. Now, for this, that's the fifth thing what happened, and the rabbis institute a special blessing. A toiv v'ametiv it's called. The good when it brings good, and he brings more good. It means to say, we are blessing God. This story teaches us to find the good in the bad. You know what I mean? People say, yeah, a big blessing. Oh, the people in Beitar they were not for 15 years. They couldn't be put to burial. Who knows? What a blessing is it? Within the bed to find the good. That's the story. One day we'll study about the grace after meal, but for this is reason number 5. The dead people in Beitar, that we have reasons here all the way from the beginning. We have reasons from the story of the people in the desert. Then it goes right after the land of Israel that the daughters of the tribe, the daughters from a tribe who do not have brothers can marry other tribes. Then it was the Benjamin, later that Benjamin with other tribes can unite. Then was the story of the end of the first temple, that you can open the ways to Jerusalem. This is by the end of the second temple. It's amazing to see. Judaism says that when there is a good day, that God brings many good days to the day. When there is bad days, a bad day, that God makes sure that all the bad things happen on this day. The same thing you happens here. On Tisha B'Av we see all the bad things. The 15th of Av, all the good things happen. Here comes number 6. Go ahead.
The Gemara offers a sixth and final reason for the festive day of the nature of the day. Rav Yosef said, the 15th of Av was the day that they stopped felling trees for the altar pyre.
Oh, that's something very interesting. Jews used to come to the temple to offer sacrifices. On the altar, you must bring wood for the fire. It's a part of the mitzvah. Then the custom in the temple was that the person who brought the animal did not have to buy wood also. The wood was provided by the temple, but somebody has to pay for it. That they used to have, and the wood has to be very dry wood, because they were the Kohanes used to examine the wood before they put it on the altar. It should not have any insects inside the wood, because it's not respectful to put on the altar wood that has insects. Then until when can you cut the wood to make sure it's dry? The 15th of Av, the sun is still strong in Israel, it's hot. And after the 15th of Av, the sun becomes weaker. The days get shorter, the nights get longer, right? Then after the 15th of Av, you are not allowed to cut wood to the temple. And this day they call it the day of breaking the axe, so to speak. This is the last day. And there were a few families that was their business to donate to the temple the wood, and was the highest level of charity. Why? Because when a person comes in the middle of the year and uses the wood, he doesn't know who donated, he doesn't have to look at it, he doesn't have to say thank you. And they provided the wood for the whole Jewish people. Then this thing of providing something for the Jews who don't want to pay started all the way from the beginning. Nothing new about that. It's like today you do with the Kiddush, some people donate, and the rest of the community benefits from it. Yeah, and that was always like this. There were a few people gave the wood, and the rest of them came and offered the sacrifices. They never asked, oh, how we have wood? Who paid for it? Nobody asked this question, I can promise you. Go ahead.
And as we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer the Great said, from the 15th of Av and onward the sun's strength wanes. Thereafter they would not fell trees for the altar pyre, since the wood was not sufficiently dry. Rav Menashe said, they therefore called that day the day of the axe breaking.
The axe breaking, so to speak, the axe breaking. This day we don't offer any more wood, we don't cut any more wood because it's not so wet anymore, not so dry anymore, we cannot roast the wood. That on the 15th of Av was a day of celebration because it's the last day, and right after that, actually on the 20th of Av, they used to bring, that was the last day, I think, to bring it to the temple. And they collect everything and you bring it by 20. That was a day of celebration, the 15th of Av, they stopped to offer, they stopped to cut. That was the last day they can actually cut the wood, the 15th of Av, and to donate it to the temple for the all Jewish people, for everybody. That was an act of charity, and the highest level of charity that nobody knows who is he giving, and the giver does not know who is giving, that the receiver doesn't know from who is taking. Then that's the sixth, the final reason of the day of the 15th of Av, a celebration. If it's so good, I'm not done yet, my friend. If it's so good, then the question is, then what are you supposed to do? Should we go out and dance at night on the 15th of Av? 6 reasons. And the Talmud tells us in the time of the temple we used to have the girls going out and dance in Jerusalem. That how are we supposed to celebrate this day? Valentine's Day, buying some gift to your wife, chocolates, taking her out to Mitchell's, jewelry. What should we do? How should we celebrate the 15th of Av? That the Talmud doesn't leave it for our imagination. The Talmud will continue. Go ahead.
In light of this waning of the sun's influence, the Gemara cautions, from now, the 15th of Av, and onward, he who adds nocturnal hours to his daytime Torah study schedule will in effect add to the light of his life.
Okay, the Talmud says like this, the night was created, in the olden days, during the day you walked, at night you went to sleep. That in the summer it makes sense, you walk for 12, 14 hours, then you're so tired you go to sleep. In the winter, the nights get longer, the days get shorter, you walk less hours, what do you do with the rest of the night? Sleeping longer? No. Talmud says, Le'ivre lailo elo legirse. The night was created to learn Torah. Then the Talmud says, what are you supposed to do from the 15th of Av and further? You're supposed to add to your time of learning Torah. The night is longer, then you have to add more time. In the summer you had less time because you had to be attending your work, your vineyard, your farm, whatever it is. In the winter you cannot be outside, it's dark, you cannot. What are you going to do with the time? Have a candle, take a book and learn Torah. And the Talmud says something amazing. The one who will learn to add time to learn Torah will add time to his life. That if I learn a half hour more Torah, I'm adding a half hour of time to my life. I will live a half hour longer.
Should have started earlier.
And there is many surveys and many studies that were made in Israel and outside of Israel that people who go to temple, to daven, live 5 years longer than people who don't go. And They're trying to give reasons. Well, secular professors in Israel who discovered that. If you go online, you'll find quite a few studies about it. They try to say because the men go walk to shul, and the people walk to shul, that's why they live longer, because they have a group of friends who looks for them. You go to shul, you have a building club until you're, no matter what age you are. It's all true. But this doesn't give an explanation for 5 years. The real explanation is like this. There are certain things that when you do it, it's not yours. It's on God's time. For example, there is a law that says that money that you spend for Jewish education and for celebrating Shabbat is not in your budget. Please to say like this. If God decided on Rosh Hashanah you're going to make $100,000 and you spend on Jewish education $30,000, that God will make sure you make $130,000. Then instead of complaining about the amount of Jewish education it costs, don't worry, that's not in your budget. Or spending on Shabbat, meals and celebration, it's not in your budget. If it's true about money, it's even more true about time. It was a Chassid who came to the Rebbe, who was from Russia, was sitting in jail for 20 years. I mentioned the story a few times, and he came to the Rebbe, he was 70 years old, and the Rebbe told him, oh, you're going back to Israel, I want you to stop in Europe, go do this, and go there, and go do this. I'll give him a whole schedule. Told the Rebbe, I'm tired. I'm already 70, I was 20 years in jail. His name was Rabbi Nanes. That the Rebbe told them, the time that you were in jail doesn't count. Doesn't count. The man ended up to live 100 years old. He was supposed to live 80, he lived 100. The 20 years that he was in jail did not count. My father was 6 years and 3 months in jail in Russia, because he tried to escape from Russia, and they wanted to give him more years, and then Stalin died, they released him. He was in jail for 6 years and 3 months. He lived to be 86 and 3 months. Exactly the amount, we never knew exactly. We just discovered that how long exactly he was in jail. We have the papers, the file, and he lived, I believe that it's the same thing. The guy told them the 6 years and 3 months are on my account, not on your account. The same thing with the 5 years that a religious Jews live longer. I'll tell you simple. If you calculate how many hours a Jew spends in shul over his life, an hour a day, whatever it is, you'll calculate it. Oh, it's around 5 years. That's the 5 years that you live longer. If you spend more time learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and in shul, then you live longer. That's what the message of the 15th of Av. Dancing with the girls, a nice idea. That was in biblical time. From now, what do you want from us? We should, from the time 15th of Av comes, we have to steal from our private time and dedicate more time for learning Torah.
We have to stay later now, Rabbi. I don't think it's